Hi, today we are going to be working on the amendments assessment in Mr. Resch's class. It's a total open notes assessment, and here's our assessment. And the notes that I highly recommend you to use on this is notes from Mr. Resch. They look like this. You have it written in your notebook, or maybe you have it cut out, this photocopy and cut out and put it included into your notebook. There's one. And the other is a packet that I can provide you. Looks like this, the constitutional amendments. It has all the amendments with pictures and what they are. You can use that, which I can provide you. So I'm going to read each one of these questions, and you can pause it as you complete the test. So the first one, it says discuss what an amendment is and what the two-step process is for the amendments to become part of the Constitution. This answer can be found on your notes from Mr. Resch on the top. Just talking about, let's go over these notes, I guess, first. So it tells us what the amendment is. So Article 5 created a way to amend or change the Constitution. So they need to come up with a process of how they can make a change to the Constitution. That's called an amendment, to amend. So they wanted to make it very difficult. Our forefathers really wanted to make it difficult to make a change to the Constitution because they didn't want a quick change. They wanted all of them to be good, and they have to be repealed or canceled. So to make it difficult, they said 2/3 of both houses, so both the Senate and the Congress, have to approve it. Then, to make it a little bit more difficult, they said 3/4 of all states have to approve it as well. Both of these need to happen. There's your two steps. Need to happen for it to be approved. There are a total of 27 amendments as of today, 2020. The first 10 amendments are considered your Bill of Rights. There are Reconstruction amendments, which is 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment. They all deal with slavery. One's the being abolished, so ending slavery. 14 deals with citizenship for slaves to be considered a citizen. And the 15th Amendment deals with African American men being able to vote. Other important ones would be, they're all important, but these are ones that are pretty significant. The 16th Amendment deals with taxes. 17th deals with the prohibition of alcohol, so not allowing the consumption or making of alcohol. 19th Amendment deals with giving the women the right to vote. The 21st Amendment repeals that prohibition of alcohol, so they canceled it out. So at first they said, no use of alcohol, can't do it. Then they realized, no, that's not in the best interest of our people, so they repealed it. So that means they canceled it. So after the 21st Amendment, we were allowed to have alcohol, make alcohol. 22nd Amendment deals with the term limit for president. So the president is allowed to be as president for 2 terms. And the 26th Amendment deals with the 18-year-old, allowing 18-year-olds to vote. So moving on to our scenarios here. Mr. Resch went over the first scenario. What you have to do, there's 2 parts. You have to identify what amendment is being talked about, and then say if it was exercised or violated. Exercised meaning that they had the right. So in this example, the 26th Amendment. Upon high school graduation, Johnny fulfills his civic responsibility and signs up for the new war on terror in Antarctica that threatens U.S. dominance of the fast-thawing Antarctic ice sheets. So after a 2-year term of service, so that means he was in the military for 2 years after he graduated high school. Remember, you graduate high school around age 18. So after 2 years later, so he's around age 20. He goes to the poll to elect individuals, so he went to vote. To elected individuals who support the war's swift conclusion, only to find himself turned away at the door. So he was not allowed to vote. So how we would say this deals with voting and the age of 18, being allowed to vote at age 18. So the 26th Amendment, Johnny's 26th Amendment was violated. He was denied a chance to vote despite being 20 years old. That's a problem. So that's what you're either going to write, exercise or violated in these. So I'm just going to read these, and you can refer back to your notes or the packet I'll provide you. on this. So the first one's dealing with Officer Johnson was called to a house for a suspected domestic disturbance. A domestic disturbance can be defined as one example as saying a husband was beating up their wife or a girlfriend, usually some type of physical altercation. When the officer gets to the house, she walks up to the partially enclosed porch to ring the doorbell. Through the open windows up on the porch, Officer Johnson sees a marijuana plant on the porch. When the homeowner comes to the door, Officer Johnson confiscates or takes the marijuana plant and tells the homeowner that she is going to search the whole house. So what amendment is this referring to? They're talking about searching, they're talking about taking, or confiscating. Which amendment deals with that? And does the officer, are they exercising the right to that amendment, or are they violating that right to the amendment? And you've got to state why. You can pause it and move on when you're done. Number 2, April 15th arrives on the calendar, and it's the deadline for the American citizens to complete their income tax returns for the previous year. James had an extremely tough year and decides he's going to take a year off and not complete his taxes. So look for the amendment that deals with taxes. Does James, in this case, did he violate or did he exercise his right to not pay taxes? Pause it. Look at your notes. Number 3. Ashley went to the gas station shortly after it had been robbed. The police arrived and began to question her. Unfortunately, she matched the description of the suspect, and she happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. They tell her that they are going to arrest her, and she better answer all of their questions. She requested a lawyer before answering any questions, and the police tell her that if she's innocent, she shouldn't really need a lawyer. So when they're talking about access to a lawyer, when you're being accused of a crime, what amendment does that deal with? And was it actually violated? Or was the amendment exercised? That the police have the right to say you don't need a lawyer. Pause it. Number 4, Donald Trump has already served 2 terms as president. So he served 2 terms. That's a total of 8 years. Each term is 4. So in 2024 comes up, he decides he wants to run for a 3rd term. He and his supporters organized a re-election campaign to make this happen. So what amendment deals with presidential terms? Let's put the number. And does Donald Trump have the right? Is he violating the amendment, or is he exercising his right to run for a 3rd term? State what you know. Pause it. Number 5. Julie is an all-star high school track athlete. One day she decided to skip school and spend time with her boyfriend who was home from college. The school decided to make an example of her and charge her with truancy. So she was forced to go to court. The judge at her hearing decided that rather than giving her a ticket, he wanted to find a way to keep her from skipping again. So he sentenced her to sleeping at school on a cot for the entire track season with morning and evening practices. She also was prohibited, not allowed, from seeing her boyfriend until the track season was over. So we're talking about a punishment in this one. What amendment deals with punishment? And was her right to this amendment violated or exercised? Did the court have the right to do what they did? That means exercise. Pause it. Number 6. Ailey came home to find a note on her door from the National Security Administration to let her know that the internet and cable had been turned off permanently to prevent ideas that might interfere with the government's goals. So, does the government have the right to turn off your internet and cable permanently to prevent ideas that might interfere with them? So what amendment deals with this? And was the government in the right or wrong? Did they exercise their right to the amendment? Or are they violating it Pause it. Number 7, Chateau was babysitting for some of her neighborhood kids. As they were leaving the house for the park, he reached into the drawer to find a spare key. He noticed under some of the papers there was a gun. Chateau confronted the parents when they got home, saying that they had no right to have a gun in their home, especially when kids lived there. So we're talking about guns. What amendment deals with guns? Do they have a right to have one in their home or not? So, are they violating or exercising the right to bear arms? Skip it. I'm sorry. Pause it. Last page. Number 8. George, a lunchroom supervisor, this is at a school, had just come back from a weekend retreat at his church. Feeling inspired, he decided that he would sing some of the songs that he learned over the weekend throughout the cafeteria, asking any students that wanted to sing to join along. Stating that the lunchroom supervisors are an extension of the school day, the school fired George. So they fired George for singing these basically Christian songs. So, was George in the right to be able to sing? Or was he violated? Violated or exercising his right to the amendment? So which one deals with the right to sing? Number 9. Melanie, who is 26 years old, went to a local polling place to vote in the last presidential election. She voted for Hillary Clinton and Tim Kaine instead of Donald Trump and Mike Pence. So we're talking about voting. So was she, what amendment is this dealing with? Did she violate or exercise her right to that amendment? Or basically, we know Hillary Clinton and Tim Kaine both lost to Donald Trump and Mike Pence. So did she violate by voting for them, or did they exercise their right to that amendment? Pause it. Number 10. In an attempt to influence the state of Wisconsin or the government, several college students have decided to gather together in a group to brainstorm reasons that the state should legalize the use of marijuana for its residents. They have regular meetings in a park, and they have spread the word to anyone that wants to join in their discussion. So do they have a right to form a group and to brainstorm these ideas and to spread the word to anyone and invite anybody that wants to join their discussion? So what amendment does that deal with? And are they exercising their right to that amendment, or are they violating their right? It's not allowed. Number 11. Make sure you state why on these as well. And number 11, you've been accused of robbing a bank. You go through a trial and you are found not guilty. But 5 years later, with new technology, there's new evidence against you. You are then notified that the next week a new trial will be held against you for that same bank robbery. So what amendment does this mean? Being tried again. Which amendment does that go with? And do they have a right to do it? So are they violating that amendment, or do they have a right to that amendment? That concludes this part of the test.